Hey, what's going on, you guys? So in this video, I want to share with you guys some of the most common mistakes that I see students make when it comes to comma rules. So I'm going to teach you guys, there's about 20 something rules for commas that you have to know, right? Some of these are comma do's and comma don'ts, right? But today I'm not going to share with you guys all those comma rules. I'll make that in a separate video. But today I'll share with you guys maybe 2 or 3 comma rule mistakes that I see students make. And I'll show you guys the kind of rules that you need to know to avoid making those comma mistakes on the SAT, okay? So taking a look at the answer choices here, you guys, first and foremost, if we take a high-level view of the answer choices, we know we're being tested on punctuation marks, right? But specifically commas. And we know this because we don't see any other punctuation marks other than commas, right? We don't see like a semicolon or a colon or a dash, right? Or parentheses. We just notice commas. We also notice that we have different words, right? We have it that replaces the word which. So we can also think to ourselves, right? We know we might be tested on sentence structure as well, right? Because it now creates a new subject, right? Whereas the word which creates a dependent clause, right? So it creates an independent clause and which creates a dependent clause, right? So we know that sentence structure might be another thing we're being tested on, okay? But the thing is with commas, first of all, is these are some rules that I want you guys to know and write this down. So I want you guys to keep a notebook of comma rules because there's going to be a bunch of them. And if you guys are paying attention to and watching my videos regularly, I'll basically take you through all the comma rules, right? But I'll create a separate video for those of you who really want to learn the comma rules in just one sitting. It'll be a long video. It'll be kind of boring, but it'll be extremely helpful for you guys to learn because these are all of the ways that the SAT tests you on commas on the exam, okay? But here, first and foremost, one of the rules for commas that I want you guys to absolutely know is this. Whenever you see parentheses in the sentence, right? We notice we have a parentheses here, right? The parentheses, the MPC. One of the comma rules is this. You never is a strong word, right? But I'm using it. You never, ever put a comma before the parentheses. So you'll never, ever see a comma and then the parentheses. That's never going to be correct, okay? So we know that, so we can automatically or already cross out answer choice A, right? Now, the second thing is I want you guys to know this, is sometimes the rule for sometimes we can put a comma, right, after the parentheses. Sometimes that's okay, okay? Remember what I just told you guys. We never put a comma before the parentheses, but sometimes we can put a comma after the parentheses. Okay, now you might be asking me, well, then when do we do this? Right? It's a logical question. So the answer is, well, it depends on the sentence that's given. Okay, so this is how you can check, right? So the way that you check whether or not this comma is necessary is you read the sentence ignoring the information that comes inside of the parentheses. So if you just read around the parentheses, you'll be able to tell whether this comma is necessary, okay? And so we'll get to that in just a second. But that's actually what we can check for now, right? So if we take a look at the sentence, it says, this phenomenon is predicated on the marginal propensity to consume, which determines how much of additional income will be spent by consumers, okay? So if we ignore the information inside of the parentheses, we'll be able to better tell whether or not this comma is necessary. So what do you guys think, right? Is this comma necessary? Yes or no? Well, I'm here to tell you guys it absolutely is necessary. And this is the second comma rule that I'll share with you guys for the day, is that, you know, when you have these which clauses, right? These which clauses are a type of dependent clauses called relative clauses. Right, relative clause. A relative clause is a type of dependent clause. A dependent clause is an incomplete sentence. In other words, it cannot stand alone as a complete sentence, right? But these dependent clauses or this relative clause, the function of this relative clause is to modify or describe the noun that appears before it, right? So here, I'll just tell you guys, when it says which determines how much of additional income will be spent by consumers, well, what is that describing? Right? Well, what is it talking about? Right? It's referring to or describing this concept called marginal propensity to consume. And so this MPC, this marginal propensity to consume, is a concept that determines how much additional income will be spent by consumers, right? That's the function of this relative clause, right? So this which clause does that job, okay? Now, again, these which clauses are, so when it comes to these which clauses, the comma rule is you always want to put a comma before the which clause, okay? So you should always put a comma before the which clause when it's used as a relative clause like this, right? So that's going to be that other punctuation or the other comma rule that you must know. So this is another comma do, right? Do put a comma before this which clause when this which clause is used, right, to describe the noun that came before it, right? So because we know that answer choice D is going to be incorrect because we don't have the comma right before this which clause, okay? And now the third thing that we're checking for really has to do with sentence structure, right? So we know that, again, if we use the word which, this creates a dependent clause, and a dependent clause is an incomplete sentence, right? However, when we use the word it, right, so when we say it determines, now that actually creates an independent clause. It creates a complete sentence. And an independent clause is a complete sentence where we have a subject, right? Where we have a subject, it, and we have a verb, determines, and we have a complete thought, right? So which creates a dependent clause, an incomplete sentence, and it creates an independent clause, right? A complete sentence, right? So now this is where we're dealing with sentence structure, right? Because if we take a look at answer choice B and C, if we take a look at answer choice B, we know this answer is going to be wrong because it creates a sentence structure error called a run-on sentence. A run-on sentence is when we have two independent clauses that are not properly punctuated, right? So in other words, you notice that answer choice B, when we plug this in, we only have a comma that separates two independent clauses. That creates a sentence structure error. It's not a good thing. It's a sad face. This is bad. This is a grammar mistake, right? Called a run-on sentence, right? And we can't have that, okay? And so how do we know that we have a run-on sentence is we got to check for it, right? An independent clause before the comma. This phenomenon, that's my subject. Is my verb, right? This phenomenon is predicated on the marginal propensity to consume is my complete sentence. That's independent clause number one. Then I have a comma here, and then it says it. It, remember, it creates a subject, right? It creates an independent clause. So I say it determines, now I have a subject verb, and now I have another complete sentence, right? It determines how much of additional income will be spent by consumers is another independent clause. So now I only have a comma that separates these two independent clauses. That creates a sentence structure error. So now the next logical question is, well, how do you fix this, right? Well, there's three different ways to fix this run-on sentence. So the first way is going to be to put a period between the two. Well, there's four ways, I should say. There's four ways to fix it. The first way is to put a period between the two independent clauses, right? Because we know that the function of a period can separate two independent clauses or complete sentences. The second thing that we can do is put a semicolon. If we put a semicolon between the two independent clauses, the semicolon can also be used to separate two independent clauses, okay? The third thing that we can do is we can put a comma and one of these fanboys words, right? Fanboys. A fanboys word is basically, right, one of the 7 coordinating conjunctions in the English language, right? So F stands for and A stands for and, N stands for nor, B stands for but, O stands for or, Y stands for yet, S stands for so. So we can combine a fanboys word and a comma to separate two independent clauses. Okay, so that's the third way that we can, fix a run-on sentence. The fourth way that we can fix a run-on sentence is we can actually turn one of these independent clauses into a dependent clause. And that's what you see here with answer choice C, right? So now instead of using the word it, which creates that independent clause, we change it to the word which is a relative pronoun, and that now creates a dependent clause. Okay, so now the sentence structure is going to be grammatically correct, right? Because now we have an independent clause, comma, and a dependent clause, which is a grammatical sentence structure, right? It's a happy face for this is good, right? So this is why C would be the correct answer for this question, okay? So guys, just to recap, right? We have comma rules. We learned, I think, 3 comma rules, maybe 4. And I taught you guys other punctuation rules as well. But one of the comma rules is always, when you have parentheses, do you put a comma before the parentheses? Never. right? What about after the parentheses? Well, sometimes. It just depends on the sentence, right? So you read the sentence without the information inside the parentheses to see if the comma is necessary, right? Then this is another comma rule. You always put a comma before the which clause. When the which clause is used as that relative clause, right? The clause that defines or describes the noun that came before, right? And so you put a comma before that which clause, and that's what we see here. And then the last one is, right, we cannot just use a comma to separate two independent clauses, right? That's a comma don't, right? So a comma cannot be the only thing that separates two independent clauses, because that creates what? It creates a run-on sentence, right? So what do we do in those cases? We can fix run-on sentences in one of four ways. You can use what kind of punctuation? You can use a semicolon. You can use a period, or you can use a comma and a fanboys word, right? Or we can turn one of the independent clauses into a not independent clause, right? Into a dependent clause in this case, right? Which we did by turning the word it into the word which, okay? And that'll help to solve that issue as well. So the correct answer here would have to be C, you guys, all right? So that'll do it for this video. Please, in the comment section below, you guys, please take the time to really think about one thing that you learned. Write that down. It's necessary for you guys to do that because it helps you to remember it better. Plus, it also helps me to know what you guys are kind of doing well with, what kind of information really helps you guys out. Also, please write down in the comment box below, what is one thing that you want to learn? What is one thing that you want to learn? And then lastly, please like and subscribe to this channel and like this video and share this video with a friend or somebody that you know might need SAT help. I'm really committed to giving, the top 99% SAT instructions to students all over the world, right? For free. And it's something that I can't do all myself. So I need you guys' help in terms of spreading the word. The more that you guys are willing to help in this respect, the more inspired, the more energized I'll be to help you guys out, right? The more that I'll show up for you guys, the better I'll make these classes, and the more that you guys will learn. So we'll just create this sort of amazing cycle, this virtuous cycle where we just kind of create this beautiful synergy with each other and really help each other kind of grow, right? As humans, as learners, because I'm here committed to helping you guys on your journey. Okay. Anyways, you guys, that'll do it for this lesson. Until the next time, make sure to always stay curious and always keep learning. You guys got this. Take care.